Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Our OP's neighbors are angry because someone made their house look the way they wanted. I think they need to grow up and realize that you can't force someone to make their house look the way you want it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video every single day. Here we go. I was making the neighborhood look cheap. I'm 24 and bought my first house. I know it's super young for that, but I really wanted the financial stability of working to own something rather than rent. I got a crazy deal on this place that cost $60K compared to the other nearby houses which cost over $300K generally. It's a lot cheaper because it's a one-bedroom house, and there's not much market for that, especially in a neighborhood with almost all 4 to 6 bedroom houses. Apparently, it was an old house that was developed around because the elderly couple who lived there refused to sell to the developer who was building more luxury large houses up and down the street. I think it was also cheap because after they passed away, their daughter wanted to sell the house quickly. It's also got a mostly wooded lot when the neighborhood is mostly raised of trees and all cultivated lawns. So the house is already an odd one out. But the things that made it unappealing to other people made it perfect for me. I don't plan on having kids for a long time, if ever, and I don't have a relationship either, so one bedroom is perfect for me. I love the trees. I love being close enough to work that I can bike there. I love the way the house looks, too. It's old brickwork and it's solid as anything. It looks like a cute little fairy tale cottage, old and weathered and surrounded by nature, but warm and homey and adorable. So I've been living there for a while, and I've done a couple of things that, in my old neighborhood, nobody would have blinked an eye at. I'll just list them here. Parked my beater car in the driveway, I have no garage, put an outdoor sofa on the front porch, put a hammock between 2 trees, built a fire pit with stones from around the property and have fires, had friends over and hung out on the porch, worked on my friend's truck in the yard, worked on my friend's bike in the yard, did woodworking in the yard to make myself a new bed frame, and I've had a couple of neighbors tell me off for the way I've been living. I guess the main point is that I'm not matching their standard of living. I don't have a nice-looking car, I don't keep my car inside, I don't keep my woodworking to an indoor shop area, I made a rustic fire pit instead of getting nice landscaping done, I got an ugly sofa instead of stylized outdoor furniture. I've kept saying that I don't have the budget they do and I can't match their lifestyles, and that actually made 2 of my neighbors quite mad. One literally said all condescendingly to me, "Young lady, I do not think you're ready to be a homeowner. You should have stayed in college area until you gained some maturity and were financially ready." Which I thought was so rude. I'm trying to be financially responsible by not blowing money on rent anymore, not buying more than I can afford, but I'm getting judged for not spending on things I can't afford. And our second story. No, you do not get to call one of my cashiers the R word and get away with it. A little backstory. I work as a service manager at a pretty popular Midwestern grocery store. I've been a service manager for a couple of months now, but have worked for the store itself for about 3 years. I've worked in quite a few departments during my time at the store, so I know a lot of the employees very well. One of my duties as a service manager is to watch the front and overlook the cashiers and courtesy clerks, make sure the customers are happy, do overrides, you know the deal. Now, while I do have some cashiers and courtesy clerks that are on the spectrum, I don't treat any of them different than any other employee, and they all appreciate this. I know their strengths and what they're capable of and push them to do their best. With that being said, I protect my employees. I care about them deeply, and if a customer even dares to raise their voice at them, I'm there to shut the customer down and take them away from the employee. I do not care if you yell at me, but do not yell at my employees. Most of them are high school students. Now to the story. One day it was fairly busy in the store. I had most of my registers open and lines were flowing pretty smoothly. I had one of my courtesy clerks covering a break on one of the registers. Let's call her Casey. Now, Casey is on the spectrum and she's a very sweet and smart high schooler. She operates a register very well and can show up all the other courtesy clerks with going outside for carts. She's arguably one of my most hardworking employees. Now, sometimes she has moments where she messes up, such as double scanning an item, entering something wrong, but this is something every cashier does, honestly. I see her light blinking, so come over to help her, and am greeted by a very angry customer and her daughter. Hey, OP, I scanned this twice. Can you void it, please? It's important to note that anything over $5 needs a manager's approval to void. It's annoying, but it's how our store works. I smile and nod and quickly do the void. It honestly takes like 6 seconds to void an item and enter my numbers for the override. Not that long at all. But that didn't stop this customer from huffing and puffing that she had to wait an extra 7 seconds for a void. I back away from the register, not thinking much about it since this is sadly a normal thing we have to deal with. I walk over to customer service to ask Jack, who was working the counter that day, a question when the following happened. Casey had finished the transaction and handed the receipt to the customer, who snatched it out of her hand before she pushed her cart aggressively away. I don't know if the woman thought she was quiet enough or far away enough to be out of earshot, but I heard her clear as day as this woman told her daughter, I can't believe they let effing R words on registers like her. I looked in horror as I saw Casey's expression fall from her normally bubbly self to sadness. Oh, hell no. I proceed to shove my schedule at Jack and walk my now very angry butt up to this customer. Although this happened about 2 months ago, I will never forget this conversation. Ma'am, I'd like to ask you something, I say, gesturing her to step out of the way. The woman and her daughter proceed to step out of the way with their cart, the mother still looking very annoyed. What do you want? I don't know if you thought you were being sneaky or smart or just plain rude just a moment ago, but what you just did is unacceptable. I'll have you know Casey is in fact on the spectrum, and both her and myself heard what you just said. You do not have the right to come in here and call one of my workers the R word and then proceed to walk out without any consequences. Who do you think you are, thinking you can talk to me like that? The woman honestly looks shocked at the fact I just called her out. I keep my composure and keep speaking. I'll have you know that girl you just called the R word is an extremely kind and hardworking employee. Honestly, she's arguably one of my best employees. Just because she made a small mistake such as ringing up an item twice does not give you permission to treat her as if she's any lower than you. At this point, the mother is stuttering and is red in the face. Her daughter's smirking and is trying to suppress a laugh as if she's actually glad her mom's being called out. How about this? How old is your daughter here? More stuttering. I turn my attention to the daughter. Hon, how old are you? The daughter smiles at me, knowing where this is going. 17? 17, huh? Fun fact. I turn my attention back to the mother. Now that's the same age as the girl you just called the R word. Now, here's an image I want you to imagine. Now imagine your daughter worked here as a cashier like Casey. Imagine she accidentally messes up and double scans something, a common mistake that happens quite often. And in return, the customer your daughter is checking out proceeds to call her a R word for making a simple mistake. How would you feel? Silence. The mother just stares at me, defeat in her eyes. How would you feel? More silence. I proceed to ask, you'd feel mad, wouldn't you? Would you be upset that someone called your daughter that? A small nod is the only response I get. Now, I'm going to give you two options. You can either go and apologize to Casey for what you said and move on with your life, or you can leave and I will personally ensure that you are placed on our store ban list. Choose wisely. I stare at her for a moment before the woman sheepishly goes back to Casey's register and gives a half-butt apology before dragging her daughter out of the store. I haven't seen this woman again, but I did see her daughter, who came back the following week to apologize about her mom and thank me for what I did. Apparently, this girl went to school with Casey and knew she was on the spectrum, but wasn't into the position to stand up to her mom. Now, I did almost get in trouble for this. One of our store managers was nearby and heard the tail end of the conversation and afterwards pulled me aside to tear me a new one. Once I explained the whole story to her, she seemed a little more at ease with it, but still wasn't happy that I called a customer out like that. We never got a formal customer complaint for it, so we don't think the customer submitted anything about it. These people act this way because they don't often get called out. You taught one person some empathy and set an excellent example for her daughter. And our last story. You want my insulin pump? Okay. When I was a kid, I had a pump for my diabetes, which basically looks like a little electronic box. It made beeping noises if my blood was too high or too low or there was a problem with the insulin. So I was in Arabic class when my pump started beeping. The class was pretty loud, so only me and a few people beside me could hear it. I already knew about what it was warning me about, and it wasn't that big a deal. It was just a half an hour till class ended, so I was just going to wait till then to replace the vial, when suddenly the teacher, let's call her ST, yells at the entire class, ST, whose phone is beeping? Me. My pump, miss. Sorry, it doesn't go any quieter. ST, bring it here. You can't have it at the end of class. Me. Miss, I can't. She cuts me off. ST, I don't care if it's tied to your body. You give it here or you will fail my class. My pump is in fact tethered to my body with plastic tubing. Her use of words was too amazing to give up. I walk over to her, unbuckle the pump from my belt, untangle the tubing, and hand it to her. I can see her eyes following the tubing to my stomach where it's attached. ST, very funny. Don't sass me like this again, girl, and I won't tell you guidance. Me. Excuse me? ST, just sit back down. Yeah, I went to guidance and our entire class got a new Arabic teacher. I never heard from her again. Still never got an apology, though. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.